This is the Retro Inc. podcast. Welcome back.
I'm good, mate. Thank you. Yourself?
Very well. Great to see you today. We had a lovely day out.
We did. Finally got to meet.
We did, finally.
In person. The actual corporeal form of Adam. Yeah.
Yeah,
You're taller than I expected.
Instead of...
You're always really small on my screen, that's all.
That's right.
Yeah, I thought you was going to be about 3 inches tall, 3 3/4 inch. I thought you was an action figure.
That's how, optic fibre makes us look, isn't it? When
we get a bigger screen. Yeah.
Yeah. That was fabulous. So we were with Mr. Jeremy Rowling and his children, Alana and Freddie, which was wonderful. And our kids just happened to meet today. A very famous YouTuber with 19 million subs, apparently. That's Mr. Dan TDM.
Wasn't he just lovely?
Wasn't he a superb guy? I mean, He didn't have to stop. He didn't have to speak to him. And he just didn't seem at all bothered that, hang on a minute, I'm having lunch with some friends, or literally, he just got accosted as he came out of the toilet.
Yeah, he was really good to the
Probably
kids.
The best
really
way.
Nice.
But the thing that was weird was I actually followed him to the toilet.
It's a good job he didn't accost him in there, otherwise we wouldn't be talking tonight.
He was in the disabled lab. I mean, I don't know if that was the VIP room.
Maybe.
But I was trying to get my lad to follow him in there, and I went in instead. And
hang on, can we just... So you tried to get your Harold's your lad? You tried to get a full-grown man into a disabled toilet in a public place.
Well,
these are the things we usually try and stop our kids from doing.
That's right. So I did it instead. He disappeared, like he'd gone into a TARDIS. Anyway, he came out and he was just lovely. What a lovely guy.
Yeah,
so,
give him the time, didn't he? And
big kudos and credit to that. That was really fantastic. And
big
Jeremy,
kudos on Jeremy as well. Yeah,
mate, what a great thing you did too. We took some photographs of the kids, and he ran off to get them printed. And the boys and the girls went over to him and asked very kindly if he'd sign their pictures, and he was just lovely.
It's a good job it's not the old days, isn't it, with Jessup's, where he'd have to send it off and wait 6 weeks for the photos to come out. They're all blurry and the heads are cut off. Yeah. And then we'd have to track Dan TDM down and get him to re-sign them. Even the staff in the restaurant were helpful with a pen, They
were wonderful.
All round fair play.
Wasn't it?
But it was lovely meeting you, mate, today. And thank you for my little present.
You're very welcome. You've got your own...
Multipass.
Your multipass.
Yeah. I love it. Yeah, I said next time I cosplay, that's it. I'll go as Lilu in the white bandages, and you could go as Dallas.
One of these things that I'd had, and I thought, I don't know how to even display this multipass, and I'd never taken out the packet. It had what did it have on the top?
Winner, Floston Paradise.
That's right. Yeah. And I thought, And I thought, if I don't have it, I'll find someone who will appreciate that. And then, of course, I met
the right person.
You
did. I'll tell you how that's going to get displayed, my friend. I'm going to try and get hold of myself a copy on DVD and put it in a nice box frame.
Oh, that'd look great.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
Yeah, and I have a couple of lanyards.
Take it out of the box and have the complete DVD case cover. Yeah. A little bit like this one, where you put the cases...
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, exactly like that with your Star Wars one. I'll have it in there with my nice multipass, because I've got a couple of lanyards I've got to do that too. I've obviously got my Celebration one.
Yeah.
And I've also got a Star Wars medal.
Hang outside the ladies' toilet and wait for Mila to come out, or maybe Bruce.
Typical Friday night for me.
Yeah. You've got a shaved head. You look like Bruce Willis. Sign the cover, will you?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, dirty vest, and then you've got the works, haven't you?
Any old building site will do for someone like that. So,
or us three today, by the looks of it, with that photo. Yeah.
Well, we went round some stores and saw lots of fabulous retro gear. One of the stores that is quite a popular store, isn't it, in the UK? You never see them absolutely heavingly packed full of people, but it's always full up with great, nerdy stuff, isn't it? Which is Menkind.
Yes, well, I mean, you met me at Bluewater, didn't you, today? And obviously this a regular haunt for me because it's 2 minutes down the road from my house. But Menkind seems to be one of these things that they survive on Christmas. And especially in that shopping centre, I know at Christmas they usually have 2 outlets. One's a pop-up that you know, they'll fill an empty unit up for Christmas. And then after that, they go back to the smaller unit and get through the year, and everything's always on sale.
Yeah, you never want a pop-up shop next to a naked flame, though, do you? For sure.
But a bub is here all night. Yeah, so yeah, I mean, Mankind's got some lovely sort of retro gaming stuff as well, and not particularly bad priced either.
I thought it was all good.
Yeah, I mean, you can obviously get it cheaper online and you wait for the delivery, but to be honest, the price-wise online, not that different, especially after you pay postage on some sites.
Sure.
But I mean, we saw the lovely ZX Spectrum.
Yeah. Well, the price of that was how much?
Oh, off the top of my head, mate, I can't remember that one, but I think
59 or 69 rings a bell.
Yeah, it was around the 50, 60 mark, wasn't it?
This is like a half a size of a Spectrum, wasn't it? Or is it around the same dimension?
Yeah, it's a little bit smaller, isn't it? They all are. They
had essential rubber buttons that were, didn't have a full keyboard.
Yeah.
And built in 1,000 games.
Yeah, I mean, obviously a load of those are shareware and you know, a lot of it is shovelware. You know, it's just
you're going to get things like Jet Set Willy.
Yeah, but you do get the goods on there.
Yeah.
As well, you get some classics. It's a nice looking little system. And I was saying to you as well, when I see it, I hear a lot of backlash off of like retro purists, you know, like gaming, you know, retro gaming purists. They hate these emulation and they hate these little systems. And I, for one, couldn't disagree more, because I think some of these now, we're reaching nearly 40 years old on some of these systems, and original consoles are only going to last so long before they eventually do just break and die. You know, they're components at the end of the day. And this is a way of really preserving that history. You know, you can have emulation. You know, these games are saved now and they're out there for people to play online. You have to download an emulator on your PC and so on and so forth. But what a nice, easy, compact way. You put it on straight into the TV, turn it on and it works. And it's got the ones on there that people want to play. Yeah, there's a lot of things that are missing, but the main crux of that system's gaming is there. And people can pick it up, play it for half an hour and enjoy something that essentially will die one day, will disappear into the ether unless we do things like this.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, and the other one we saw...
It's not a replica, is it, for a small film thing?
No.
It's not a fake. It's just purely... really, it's something that just represents a Sinclair Spectrum.
Yeah, it's a little bit of nostalgia.
A little bit of nostalgia.
They're great. And I mean, we saw the Commodore 64 as well.
Yeah.
Which
another great machine, £59.
Yeah, the joystick was 25 for it, so obviously that does bump the price up for a bit. I don't know if you noticed in the box, was there a joystick in there?
I didn't see that.
I don't know either. I'm not 100%
I'm sure it must come with one, because
I think it does, but they used to break, didn't they? Right. They were notorious for breaking, especially playing things like Track and Field and
a little bit tight
stuff like that.
You just got the console and no joypad, and where else would you get one of those from unless everything else was compatible with it? So,
and I don't know, maybe
comes with 1,000 games,
something like that. Yeah, we should have taken more photos while we was there.
No, it's 64 games with the 664.
Maybe
we worked out, didn't we, that it was less than a pound a game.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, you can't knock that. It's okay. There again, there's going to be some games on there you never play, but there will be some games on there you will play to death, and you will get through, and you will, you know, you're into it. And it's a lovely looking little system, and especially for people that can't afford to go and drop, you know, £200 on an original, because that's how much some of these things go for now. Especially
if you've got a young kid, let's say maybe 7 or 8 years old, he's gagging to get, you know, some kind of console, and the parents are thinking, you know, it's £180 for an Xbox. Well, why not just get him into something like that?
You know,
simple games, they're going to be highly addictive, because we know they are.
Mate, you're completely right.
You know, give that a year, he's got a good year's play out of it.
Yeah. And if they don't like it, it's only 60 quid.
Exactly. Dabble at it.
You've got to look at, yeah, exactly. But I mean, you look at my daughter, she's 5. And she just turned 5. So when she was 4, we started playing on I had that Namco plug and play with Pac-Man and Galaxian on it.
Mm-hmm.
She absolutely loves Pac-Man. She will play it to death. If I plug it in, she'll sit there, she'll play Pac-Man, and she enjoys it. She gets excited. And then I plugged in my PlayStation 2. And it was far too complicated for her. She couldn't get her head around the controller. She wasn't interested. It was, it was painful watching her. She's running SpongeBob into the wall, not making him jump at the right time. And, and then I got her a DS. And I think she has looked at it for the day that I bought it for her, and it's been sitting in the case since. And I just think this is a great way of introducing kids into gaming. Like you say, it's not complex. It's really easy to pick up and play, and it gives them the basics. And we learnt that way ourselves.
Of course.
And I think, okay, it's different now. Kids are thrown into with tech. It's, my daughter's iPad is her pride and joy, and I have to prise it out of her fingers at night time. But this is a good way of getting them into gaming. See if they like it. See if they pick it up and they start to understand the mechanics of things. How, we take it for granted. You pick it up and you know how the X-axis works on a control pad, and you know how the D-pad works. You pick them up something like the 64. All they've got is 2 buttons and a stick, and it does everything they need it to do. And then if you want, you can go upgrade to the Sega Mega Drive Mini, which we also
was a game
today.
Yeah, which you had a go on. We played
Sonic and Knuckles.
Sonic Knuckles, yeah.
Yeah.
Did all right on that, didn't you?
Sega kid, mate. I was brought up on it. Yeah.
So again, that has how many games? 89 or something.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. And but what I love about that,
we talked about that before on a previous show.
We did. But it's that console. It's the cartridge slot on it that I absolutely love.
A fabulous idea.
Because any purists out there, their argument's invalid now.
Yeah.
Because
you have got a mini console.
Yeah. And I mean, you can plug in any cart you find, and it will work in that. And you've got yourself a Mega Drive that plugs straight in to your modern TV with no kerfuffle and mucking about. It just plug and play, goes in. The leads are a little bit short on the controller.
But there are leads where you can also plug those 3 audios into a SCART or into an HDMI even.
And it's not a big system, so it can move closer to you. It can sit on the floor. It's not expending too much energy that it's going to overheat. It's, they're great little systems, these things. And it's kind of making me want to go buy one. I mean, I've got a Mega Drive anyway, so I don't need one, but I've been looking to get a Commodore anyway.
Wait, if you put £10 a month away.
Yeah, exactly.
Christmas.
Yeah, well,
there you go.
It might just fall in my pocket for myself anyway at some point without anyone knowing. But we did see something else in there that was pretty cool, didn't we? If you're a very small person, that is, and that was the mini arcades.
Love them.
Yeah, little arcade cabinets.
They're just under 20 quid a go, aren't they? So there was a little Space Invaders mini arcade machine, a little Pac-Man.
Fully working. I think the screen was probably about 1.5 inches across.
It was hard to see.
It was, yeah.
Yep. There was also these Game & Watch Nintendo replicas.
100 games, wasn't it?
100 games built in, thicker than the originals, and a much smaller screen.
It did have that look of the.
It was a compromise, isn't it?
The Donkey Kong handheld.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looked a bit like the Donkey Kong 1. I think it was the brown one rather than the silver.
I mean, why not pick one of those up, give them a go? They were just under £20, and pick yourself up a Donkey Kong barrel mug while you're there too.
That was cool, wasn't it?
I loved that.
We should totally be sponsored by Menkind for this episode.
This show is sponsored by Menkind.
It's not. It's not. I wish.
I wish.
If they want to sponsor us and send me a Commodore 64, wouldn't it just? But yeah, we did see lots of lovely little things in there, didn't we?
Some great lights, lots of Harry Potter merch.
Yeah, some Funkos, the usual.
Yeah. So why not check out your local Menkind store?
I did see that really cool little coffee tin, didn't we? The I like my coffee like the dark side or whatever it was for $1.97. I mean, mad prices.
Great. One of my favourite things in the cabinet. Have you seen the endoskeleton Terminator?
No.
You need to see that.
I will have to have a look at that.
We'll check it out. It's like an endoskeleton bust, but it's a goblet.
Oh, all right, okay.
Yeah, so when it's in your cabinet, obviously if it's at a decent height, you can't see that you can see into the top of his head where you could put some fluid for
cool.
drinking, but it's a really good looking sculpt, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. I did see something else over there today. I went into the Lego store and they have the lovely UCS Millennium Falcon in there, all built and on display and available as well.
They had some in store.
It's good to see it finally available
for
general
public. Well, the USS Set.
Yeah, I've got my eye on that. It's one of my favourite ships.
Saw my Boba Fett Slave 1 in the cabinet, and I was like, oh, I've got that. It's nice.
Yeah, you lucky man.
It's better in the shop.
It's because they've got the cabinet and the lighting, haven't they? That's the thing.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, because my Millennium Falcon, I've got the Millennium Falcon, the standard size one, and I can't display it right. There's no way.
There are ways.
Yeah, I'm sure there is.
There are ways. I think one of the things you need to do is you need to get some really good screenshots of this Ultimate Edition, and then go into your box and find lots of greeblies to modify your Falcon. Now what I've done with mine is I've modded mine to point out weighs probably double the weight as it did.
Really?
Yeah, to put extra stuff on the panels, and it just looks so much better.
Gives a bit more definition, yeah.
It looks, you can really make them, and that's the whole point with Lego, isn't it? Is that you get a basic set, you build it, it's great, then you think, oh, I can add to it, and it turns it into your own.
That's what the Lego movie was about, my friend.
Oh yeah, plenty of great Lego, but the thing that is on my most wanted list is the Tron set. Which retails at £29, and it's an awesome looking little set.
Is that with the light cycles?
Yeah, you get 2, and you get the young lady. I was going to say
Cora.
Cora, yeah.
Cora.
And yes, a fabulous set, mate. I'd like that on my shelf with my Big Bang Theory.
You got a Big Bang one, have you?
I have.
Ah, good man. I didn't know you was into Big Bang. That's
What's my surname? Yeah.
Sheldon. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. So
insufferable though. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think? I mean, this is coming up now to season 13 of The Big Bang Theory. Do you think we're getting to a point now where they're just going to just run this down? Because
they already have, as far as I'm concerned, mate.
Yeah, I think it peaked at series 8.
Yeah,
thought maybe we're going to push it to 10.
We used to watch it religiously. It was a
Sunday
staple in our house. We'd sit there and we'd just binge. Yeah, we'd just binge watch Big Bang. And I've got to be honest, I'm about a season and a half behind because it's not that I'm bored with it. It's just turned into a sitcom now. Whereas before I feel like it was something more than that. And it's what everyone does with TV series. They run far too long in the tooth. It's just a cash cow for them. To be fair, I have started watching Young Sheldon, and actually that is
that good?
Refreshing, actually. It's not at all what I thought it would be. It works very well, and it's quite strange this, because the guy who plays Sheldon's mum in Young Sheldon, me and my wife were watching it and went, oh, she's really good at, I can never remember the lady who plays Sheldon's mum in Big Bang Theory, but she's quite famous, isn't she? And we was watching Young Sheldon, and it was like, she's really good at doing an impersonation, like the little nuances and that. And it turns out it's actually her real life daughter.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and so it's really clever how it's done. Sheldon's actually adorable. The dad is played by, I don't know if you remember in Big Bang, but do you remember the bully that picked on Leonard in school, and they meet him in a bar and they get drunk and he has an idea and he needs 2 tech guys to help him out? He's actually the dad in Young Sheldon. Right. So there was a bit of a hurdle to get over there for me, was that, this guy's already been in The Big Bang, but now he's playing someone else. But aside from that, it's actually a really enjoyable, it's one of those, a quaint little show. It's nothing major. There's no big storylines. It's week in, week out is a different, different scenario. It's just fun to watch. I really recommend giving it a try.
And this show's on what channel?
I don't know, mate. I have Sky. It's just on my planner.
This is on channel 4, E4, one of those.
I have not
usual
got a clue.
Platform where it's on in the UK.
I will just have a quick look, because like I say, it's all on my Sky planner. So I just put things on Series Link. Or so I say, my wife does. And
I'm presuming it's on E4 more for channel 4 in the UK, and the usual network that Big Bang is on.
All 4. There you go, channel 4, all 4. Yeah, Young Sheldon.
Yeah.
So.
Great stuff. Cool. So yeah, that was wicked seeing some of those gadgets and gizmos in Mankind and Lego store today. And we also went into the Disney store and had a look at what's there for geezers rather than little girls, because there's very little there really for the collector in the Disney store these days, I think.
They was doing when Solo came out, they did have a small selection of Black Series in there.
There was a small selection of Black Series.
Was there today? I mean, I like I say, I go in there at least once a week, and there wasn't.
There's one guy that everybody should be trying to look for. I'm not going to say who it is.
There was a vintage collection in Disney store.
There was, yes.
This must be new stock because I was in there this week and they didn't have any.
Smoke Raging and First Order Stormtrooper.
Cool.
Yeah.
Might have to go there and have a look at that now.
In the vintage collection, the release is currently the Imperial tank from Rogue One. It's just hit shops and stores, and it's looking rather beautiful. And I'm looking forward to seeing when these Jabba sail barges get made and get shipped out.
Do you think they will?
A shipping box. Oh yeah, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
Beautiful looking things. So Devi, I mean, obviously we've had a World Cup on, so
yes.
I've watched a couple of games, but I tried very hard to watch as much in the way of movies as possible this week, and I've watched quite a bit. I've had some time on my hands, and I try to fill it with film. I kind of work out I can watch 2 to 3 films a night if I get the timing right. So I try and look at run time and think, okay, I can get 3 2-hour-long movies in between 7 and say I'm looking to get a bit at 11, so I can do that. And I did a little bit of a Tron run, so I watched Tron Classic and then Tron Legacy, and I loved the way it was very cohesive this time. I've not noticed how it was. So I had
Tron sequel, Legacy. Mate.
It's brilliant.
Not given the credit it deserves, as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely. It's got a phenomenal soundtrack, as we know, but the cohesion is really, really good. And what I did was I watched Tron Classic on Blu-ray and I had it queued up on my Apple TV. So that was on pause right at the very moment when it starts. So as soon as it finished, what I do is click my source button on my remote control and go straight to it.
Nice. It
ran beautifully together.
Yeah, I like that film. A lot of people don't for some reason. I can't get my head around it. And one of the things that actually annoys me is criticisms of people is the Jeff Bridges character, the younger version of him. What's he called? Q? No, what's his name? The program that plays the young Jeff Bridges.
Go on, well, you know it.
Yeah, no, I've lost it now.
It's Clue.
Clue, that's it. I was thinking Q. Clue. Now, a lot of people saying, the CGI and it didn't look right, it didn't sit right. And I think that actually works better that it doesn't sit right because it is a computer program, digital version of him. So therefore, there would be something, you look at him and go, something's not right there. It is a flawed argument. Thank you. I'm glad someone agrees with me. And I think it's perfect. Everything looks shinier. Everything looks newer. And why? Because computer systems have upgraded and it's modern. And I just think it's a perfect, in fact, maybe it's a better film than the first one in some respects, you know.
I think you're right. I mean, I prefer Legacy.
Yeah.
For many reasons. I think sometimes the music can be a little bit annoying in Classic, but it was just so ahead of its time when it came out. I think sometimes the graphics are a little bit also annoying because of, again, the time. And I think there's a couple of scenes that drag on just a little and can be very confusing to the first time watcher of the Classic. I mean, certainly as a kid when I watched it, it did confuse me. But it's one that has grown for me over the years, and certainly this time round I enjoyed it 10 times more than I ever have done, actually, because I was going to go on this little run. And then after that I decided to get on a real John Carpenter run, and there was a couple of movies of his that I hadn't seen before, and I must say I won't be returning to them for quite some time, but I did rewatch The Thing. and I watched the Thing sequel, which came out a few years ago. And again, I did the same thing again. I queued it up.
How well does that work? It works brilliant, doesn't it? With that person, and then the snow. Yep. Again,
highly recommend this. Recommend this. I mean, let's face it. I mean, the Total Recall remake. How would you score that?
Right, and that's a hard one.
See, I really like it.
Yeah, I do, but it's not necessary.
But it's not necessarily Total Recall.
Exactly, they're two different films.
Two different films. RoboCop remake.
I liked it.
As far as I'm concerned, I really love it. I love the vibe.
Most people are going to hate me for this, and this is a controversial view. I don't like the original, and I really enjoyed the new one. I don't know what it is. I don't gel with RoboCop. I never have.
Direction is fantastic, and there's a new story that we're going to be mentioning a little bit later about RoboCop.
Yeah.
So yeah, Thing sequel. If you've not seen it, watch the original Thing first.
Yeah.
And then watch this sequel. I think it works better watching the classic and then but there's something very, I think, important to sort of talk about the Thing. If you've seen it, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's the final scene.
Yeah.
And there is a moment where you might think that one of them isn't who they say they are, but that's all to do with lighting.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of it's to do with coats. You might have known. I try not to spoil anything here, mate.
Yeah.
But it's got a lot to do with coats, and you might think, hang on a minute, this doesn't end as well as we think it might, but actually it's all to do with lighting, and it does end the way it does. But leave it at that. So, on the night of England's defeat against Sweden, we didn't record a podcast because a certain someone wanted to watch the game. Well, I did not.
Yeah, well, I would have been with you at 9 o'clock if they could have just not let any goals in after they scored that free kick.
You know what? You would have known about it, the result, from the noise in the streets. And I saw the goal go in, and I thought, that's enough for me.
No.
Anyway, I decided to
Apologies for that. Yeah.
Kubrick classic of 2001: A Space Odyssey, and I just sat back and watched this movie, and it's a stunning masterpiece.
Now
I did not put this in my top 10 when we did our top 10s, and I wish I had.
What am I missing, Adam? Because I do not get this. I think it is a pile of pretentious poop.
You might well think that, but you're wrong. Now, I think one of the podcasts that we listen to, and it's E14, and not to be confused with E17, they mentioned in their recent podcast that talking about classics and quotes in movies and that sort of thing. Well, one thing 2001 doesn't have is any quotes. There's no quotable lines.
How are you doing, Dave?
Really? Yeah, I suppose you could perhaps mention that one. But this film is a classic, and it is a classic. It's not a cult film. This is a very, very important movie. And if you look at all the most important movies through time, you could say Citizen Kane, Wizard of Oz, Willy Wonka, Chitty Bang Bang, if you want to whack that one in, West Side Story. You're going to put 2001 in there. The Shining is going to be in there. You're going to say Star Wars is going to be in there. Alien's going to be in there. Important movies that have started a whole genre.
I understand people love this film.
Blade Runner, of course.
I understand it. I know there's a big fan base for 2001, and I know you like it, and I should like it.
You need one thing for 2001.
A lot of drugs. Oh, right, okay.
Just patience.
Sorry, I thought you meant a lot of drugs.
Just patience. I think it's a visual masterpiece. It takes more than one viewing. See, which again, there's an argument for why should I watch a film I didn't like the first time.
No, I get that, because I'm an advocate of that. I think when people say you shouldn't have to, no, you shouldn't have to, but sometimes it helps. We've spoke about that with Star Wars.
But you can't read. You'd read War and Peace, right? And you go, I ain't reading that again. That's just a load of long stuff. But we know that book is a classic. Well, this is on par with that kind of idea, if you like. Okay, so you didn't really like it, but it's beautiful. The Blu-ray.
I get that it's beautiful. I'm not denying that. There are some stunning visuals in that film. And honestly, I could sit with it on in the background while I was doing something, and I know that I'd enjoy it probably more that way.
A sick day, that's when you want to watch it, mate. When you're not very well, pop it on. And
not allowed then, mate. I haven't had a day off sick in 6 years, I think. So,
yeah. 2010 was also a fantastic film. Very different, a lot more dialogue. So I watched that. And another movie that I hadn't seen before, and I'm a big fan of Duncan Jones. I recently watched Warcraft and loved it. Thought it was a cracking film.
It's a good film. Yeah, really good film. Right.
It would be a shame if there's not a follow-up film to that.
There won't be, unfortunately. It bombed over here, box office wise. Bombed. It still did millions. It did very well. If we do get one, it'll be funded Chinese by the Chinese, because it did very well over there. It was one of their biggest films of the year that came out. And they've also got, they're big on Warcraft out there. They've got a Warcraft theme park as well that's opened up in the last couple of years. But I don't think we'll get a Duncan Jones sequel to that. Yeah, it is a shame.
It's got trilogy written all over that.
Yeah.
So I rewatched Moon this week.
Fantastic.
It is a fantastic film. And I watched Source Code. Now, this is a film that I know a lot of people, because I've read a lot of reviews, who said, I don't know why I didn't see this film sooner.
Yeah, it's a great film.
If you've not seen Source Code, and you have seen Adjustment Bureau and The Matrix, this is one of those films that's kind of, in that field. And
it's Groundhog Day on steroids, isn't it?
It's fantastic. What a phenomenal movie. And I loved the end. I loved the middle, and I loved the beginning, and I thought it was beautifully acted. It had a little bit of Oblivion with the main character and the character on the screen that he was talking to quite a lot of the time. And then there was this empathy between the two of them that's clicked, and I really felt very emotional.
Yeah.
And there was a reveal in this film. Again, I'm not trying not to spoil anything for those who haven't seen it, but there's a reveal in this film of the main character and it just blew me away. I felt very emotional, and I hats off to the way this film was created and made and written, because I didn't see what I saw coming. And this is when he's in his confinement, shall we say, and the operator that he's talking to on the screen actually gets to see him, and I found that very emotional. And so I should definitely recommend Source Code if you haven't seen it.
It's a great little cast as well. It's
it's a very small cast.
It's a mix as well. It's a mixed bag. I mean, I love Gyllenhaal anyway.
What is there? 20 people on a train carriage.
Yeah, we got Jake Gyllenhaal, Vera Farmiga, which she's from what films? It's the horror films. I always forget what one she's in. Orphan, she was in that, wasn't she? And Bates Motel, she plays Norma Bates. And then you got Jeffrey Wright. Obviously, he was what's his name? Felix.
That's
Felix
right.
Leitner, isn't it? From but then you've also got Russell Peters, which is a strange person to have in there. He's a comedian, Canadian comedian. Yeah, he plays a bit of a a-hole in this, doesn't he? If I remember rightly, on the train.
Yeah, well, he did, and then he turns out,
to be all, but yeah, it's not many people, like you say. It's just a few people on a train.
It's gripping, though, isn't it? I found myself really gripped to this film. I found it very gripping and really brought me into the story. It was brilliantly written, superbly directed, to get again those scenes, because it's time travel.
Yeah.
And getting it all to work so well, and it was great. Really,
Duncan Jones is a phenomenal director, and I'm kind of glad when he does these lower rent movies.
Or Muse on Netflix.
Yeah,
is a must watch if you like.
Moon as well is a fantastic movie.
Yeah.
It always seems to me with Duncan Jones, his best work is the ones that are a little bit more indie. a little bit lower key.
If he doesn't do, Alex Garland doesn't do Dredd.
Yeah,
you could see him as a director for another Dredd film. I think he would do a phenomenal job with that, or even do a Space 1999 movie, which I know he's a huge fan of.
You know who his dad is, don't you?
Oh, of course.
Yeah,
yeah.
The one and only.
I can't see him doing a remake of Man of Earth though, but but he could.
He could indeed, yeah.
That's the sort of thing, if he was going to do a remake of something for his father. So, going back to Mr. Kubrick, I watched The Shining. Nice. And you always see more with every watch of that film. It doesn't leave me with any unease anymore, which is what it used to do.
Right.
It leaves me with what actually that film is really about, and this is not the podcast to be talking about that on. We need a whole show for just that movie.
Yeah, definitely.
And the reason why I watched The Shining was the same reason why I'd previously watched The Witch and The Babadook, was because I was going to see Hereditary. And let me say one thing. If you like The Babadook and you're a fan of The Witch and you like psychological horrors, this film is completely up your street. It's when you know that it's won Sundance and it's done Palme d'Or awards, and it's his first film, and it was a huge passion of his to get this film made in the way this film has been put together. It is a masterpiece and it will be looked at that way. However, I came out absolutely loving this film and I was bricking it going in, because going to the cinema to see a film like this, and if your horror is not your thing, you are apprehensive. You don't know what you're going to see. You've seen the trailer. The trailer makes you feel very uneasy. You think, okay, I'm going with my girlfriend and her son to go and see this film, and I came out and I loved it, and they thought it was boring and an hour too long.
Right.
Now they would say the same thing about Blade Runner 2049. They'd say the same thing about 2001. They'd probably even say about Tron Legacy. It was an hour too long and it was boring. That's just not their type of horror. That's what I'm saying. It's not a slasher. It's not a jumper. It's a fascinating film. It looks at the inevitability that a family is going to always and would have always gone through to get to what this finale of the film is. It's really hard again. I don't want to spoil it.
Yeah.
But, the inevitable is going to happen. Look, you go and see a film called The Exorcist. What's it about? It's about a girl who's possessed and an exorcist who's going to depossess, right? This is a film about some people who have some psychological issues caused by their grandmother, and those psychological issues are deeper than you would ever expect them to be, and the inevitable was always going to happen.
I'm assuming they're hereditary.
Indeed. If you like, the darkness of satanic ritual and worship and cults, this film is for you. For me, it's another movie that you need to watch a couple of times to see lots of these clues, but you're so gripped because of the fact that it takes its time to tell its story that you see those clues, and the director gives you them. He shows you them. He doesn't hide anything in plain sight. He's literally showing you symbols and things, saying, look, this is what's happening. This is what this family's going through. You know it, but they don't. Now let's just enjoy them discovering what's going on. And when you know that, something is going to happen, let's watch them discover it and see the shock and the horror of them discovering it. And that's what I loved about it. It was very simple in that way. That, for example, if you know that there's a dead body hiding in a basement. No, I'm not saying that's actually what's in the film, okay? And it's there because the director's basically told you it's there, but the actors don't know, then the real thrill is going to be when that happens. Now, another film that's similar to that is A Quiet Place. We know that she's pregnant she's going to have a baby. Oh dear, I think I might have just... Anyway, babies make a noise, and if you're living in a place where aliens will attack within 10 seconds of a noise, then the threat of a baby...
Yeah.
So you've got that apprehension is going to be there. Oh my God, this is going to happen.
Baby's hard enough. Wait till it's 4 years old and don't stop.
Yeah. So a phenomenal film, not for everybody, but if you like psychological horrors, this has the same kind of pace as Alien. Do you know what I mean? It's a slow, puts you into the story very slowly. You start to see everything unwind and evolve at a nice pace, like The Witch does and that The Babadook does. It's a story of grief, bereavement, pain, trauma, and the inevitable.
Sounds like my street.
You'd
my
love
Sunday afternoon viewing.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
it is. So, a little bit of Star Wars news. The community of Star Wars fans is known to be loving and inclusive, as we know. But with fans often embracing strangers has found the connection to the galaxy far, far away. Sadly, that community has become increasingly toxic over the years, as we know, and resulting in a vocal minority of fans focusing on what they hate about specific chapters in the saga instead of focusing on what they love. James Mangold, who is rumoured to be developing a Boba Fett film, took to Twitter to warn fans of the dangers of their harassment. He says, at the point when work, writing and directing big franchises become the emotionally loaded equivalent of writing a new chapter of the Bible, with probable danger of being stoned and called a blasphemer, then a lot of bolder minds are going to leave these two film hacks and court boards. The filmmaker didn't specifically cite any franchises, though we know he's talking about Star Wars. And at the point when his work, writing, directing big franchises become emotionally loaded, equivalent to writing a new chapter of the Bible, which is obviously another Star Wars film, he's basically saying, why on earth would any director pick up anything with the amount of trolling that's going on? It's clear he wasn't limiting his comments to one franchise, though a follow-up tweet drew a direct connection to Star Wars, obviously, and reactions to The Last Jedi. In case of Rian Johnson and Chris McQuarrie, I assure you these cats are not owed. They actually fight their own battles behind the scenes. Mangold replied to a fan who claimed that studios have also begun hiring hacks. It's evident, isn't it, that a lot of these directors that, once may have been very vocal that they'd love to direct a Star Wars film are having second thoughts.
The only people that can be blamed for this is the toxic fans, mate.
Yeah.
Star Wars will suffer from any growth because of these people being idiots. That's the nicest way I can put it, is idiots. There is always going to be something you don't like, and this hashtag not my Star Wars, you just get over it. I hate these people to say, oh, you're not a real fan because you don't like XYZ. You can be a fan of something because you like one thing. There is 9 Star Wars films out there, and 10 Star Wars films out there. You don't have to like them all. And these people that are abusive and drag the fan base down, they are going to be the death of Star Wars eventually if this continues. I want to see directors taking a chance and doing something a little bit left field. What Rian Johnson did isn't what any of us expected, but it was blooming good.
Well, one actor who played Jar Jar Binks, Ahmed Best, recently confirmed that due to endless amount of negativity he suffered on the portrayal of the character, he contemplated his own suicide. Obviously not one of somebody else. You don't contemplate someone else's suicide.
Sometimes.
Whether or not Mangold's comments are meant to be a reflection of behind-the-scenes knowledge he gained about the rumoured Boba Fett film and the direction he was planning to take, or merely his own opinion of fan backlash, is unknown. But certainly, poor old Ahmed Best must have gone through hell.
We saw this with Jake Lloyd as well, though, didn't we?
Yeah. That is just awful for a young boy goes through that kind of thing.
Yeah, you to put it into context for Joe Public, for normal people. Can you imagine? I deliver groceries for a living, And can you imagine if I went to someone's house to drop off their stuff, and I know my customers, but it's a strange business, regular people, and I get there one day, and say 7 or 8 of my customers in a day started just lambasting me and dragging my name through the mud and saying how terrible I was at my job and how I should just go and jump off a bridge. And, you know, that's essentially what these people are doing. The guy's doing his job and he's doing it to what was expected. And to make someone feel like that at the end of the day just because you didn't like a movie, I think people need to get a life sometimes. You know, you can turn around and go, I didn't like The Phantom Menace because Jar Jar Binks wasn't a character I enjoyed. Okay, fair enough. We can all accept that. But don't have to be a douchebag about it.
Well, wonderful another thing is the marvellous James Gunn, who's also been very vocal about...
Oh, he piped up, didn't he? Yeah.
He did indeed, yeah. Despite all the fan backlash, Disney is showing no signs of slowing down the Star Wars franchise. Solo: A Star Wars Story arrived in theatres of, 2 months ago, while J.J. Abrams is going through the motions of getting the last episode underway. There's obviously Rian Johnson's developing trilogy. So Star Wars fans have to deal with a lot more diversity of sequels in the new future. So if you don't like it, stop watching it. It's not for you, you know. So comments from our listeners on what you think about that.
Yeah, let us know.
Please do. And on another subject of a Star Wars actor, Mr. Harrison Ford, and the Indiana Jones Episode 5 news. Bearing in mind at the time the film is released, so Harrison Ford will be 78 years old when that comes out.
This has just been pushed back again, hasn't it? To 2021.
Days old altogether. You might be a bit of a stretch to expect him to be a whip-cracking, knuckle-dusting, tomb-raiding best, but despite the March of Old Father time, we'll be seeing the 5th Indiana Jones installment on Friday the 9th of July 2021. A year later than planned, yeah. By then we'd have waited 13 years since Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, which you rate very highly, and I think is still a great film.
Yeah, it's a good film. There's some problems with it. Again, of course there's some silliness with it. It's an Indiana Jones movie.
Can you believe it's 31 years since The Last Crusade, an unbelievable 40 years since Raiders of the Lost Ark. So fingers crossed it gives Ford's India a really great send-off.
Do you think,
hands the hat whip to someone else, if that happens.
Do you think, though, this is maybe them preparing us for that to happen?
I think
because this has been pushed back twice now.
Think so.
And you've only got to put 2 and 2 together to know that Harrison Ford is not going to be able to do this movie at that age. I think this is a good sign for us I think it's a good way of readying people for, let's be honest, we're not going to get an Indiana Jones movie in the vein we expect.
Did Indy have any children? That's the question. And if he doesn't have any children, then what a shame Shia LaBeouf, who you didn't like actually very much, did you? Couldn't take over that mantle because, quite frankly, I thought he would be good. But now, a couple of podcasts back, we were going through it was the last one, wasn't it? Dreamcast. We talked about potential actors who would be ideal, and you said Mr. Christopher Pratt.
Yes.
Now, he'd be a very busy boy if he takes that on as well, wouldn't he?
He would.
What a perfect role for the guy.
Then you say that, they're talking about this Jurassic Park being a trilogy. And I mean, that trilogy will have been completed by that point.
So he would have done another Guardians film.
He's done his Guardians. The third installment of the Jurassic World trilogy will be done.
3 films.
We don't know.
3 films for Disney.
And you don't know where he's going to be.
He'll be probably the same age as what Harrison was for The Last Crusade, wouldn't he?
Yeah, but will he have any more Avengers films to do or any more Marvel films? We don't know where that direction's going with that character. But yeah, I mean, all he's got to do is if he gets this Indiana Jones gig and a Star Wars gig, he's got the big 4, hasn't he?
Hasn't he just? Yeah.
Humble beginnings from a guy who lived in a van on a beach to this. Fair play to him, because I think he's cracking.
Well, Jonathan Kasdan, the son of Raiders of the Lost Ark scriptwriter Lawrence Kasdan, has been brought on to write the new draft of the feature. A previous version was written by David Cope, who no longer available to work on the film because he's focused on directing his Blumhouse feature, You Should Have Left. No news on how Ford will be involved yet, but with de-aging technology so effective these days, there's every chance they could knock 20 years or more off the veteran actor if they need to make him appear as he would have done in the pre-Crystal Skull era. Or perhaps this is the time when, à la Last Crusade, he gives the hat to a younger wannabe. Or the best option, perhaps, we head back to the 30s with a new actor in the role to enjoy that magical time period and share some adventures with Indy once again. I think that's a good option, mate, is just go back with a younger guy, a young Indy, which is what we saw once on the TV show.
It could be him just telling a story.
I would love that.
And it cuts to Chris Pratt as a young Indiana Jones. It will bridge the gap. It'll make it a little bit more palatable to the more negative people that aren't willing to open, to accept this, because you'll still have Harrison in that movie playing Indiana Jones. You'll still have his voice. You'll still have.
I think that'd work really well, wouldn't you?
It would.
I think we could go. I think we could go. A good 10, 15 years before.
Where's Last Crusade set? What year? That's around. Is it World War II? Is it or the
World War I? Yes.
World War II. So we're talking the 40s.
Yeah. It's
so
41,
essentially,
42,
we're talking. Crystal Skull would have been... Yeah, Crystal Skull was in the World War II, isn't it, as well? Because you've got the Nazis in it. So, we're talking, say...
1930, we could go.
But I'm saying, if you were to continue chronologically, then we're talking, say... If we're using Indy as he is now, we're going to be talking about Indiana Jones, in the 70s? If you're going to knock a couple of years off of him?
Yeah.
Early 70s? And I mean... Personally, I wouldn't mind seeing an Indiana Jones movie where he's just hung up his hat and his bullwhip and he's sitting in a field with a bunch of hippies listening to, to Jimi Hendrix. That'd be cool. Indy does Woodstock.
And reminiscing.
But yeah, I don't think we're going to see that. I don't think we're going to see an Indy in the 70s, and it's not going to work doing Indy in the 1940s, 1950s with him being that much older. So they've really got to take a sort of direction here that will shoehorn in a younger person playing Indy to continue that dynamic of the story, because
a little bit of Egyptology.
Yeah,
chuck in some ancient stuff in Tibet again. Throw in some African adventures. It's all very possible.
I mean, we're at that renaissance, that rebirth of everything old. Everything's being remade. Even Jurassic World. I like both of these new movies, and they've done it in the perfect way that they mention the older ones. They're mentioning Jurassic Park. It's not like they're reboots that are disregarding the original. They're revitalizing that brand, and they're mentioning the past and those mistakes. And that's, like you say, I'd love to see them do that with it, that they just continue this on as normal, but with somebody else in that role.
Yeah.
And I don't know who. I'm not a casting director. I'm not privy to this information of who would be best for that role. But that's what I'd like to see, because it will continue that part of Indiana Jones that makes Indiana Jones what it is. Like you say, the Egyptology, the African jungles, the artifacts, that nice glamour of the 1930s cinema style that it has. And you start doing it now and you do it in the 70s, and it's just going to lose something. And I'd rather lose Harrison Ford and keep the core of Indiana Jones, because Harrison Ford's too old. It just wouldn't work. It just wouldn't be able to carry a movie in the same way. I mean, you can play on the jokes of him trying to roll under a door and putting his hip out.
I think we could see an Indiana Jones becoming very much a Kenobi type of figure.
Cool, yeah, and that's what I mean. It doesn't even have to be... Pratt wouldn't even have to be Indiana Jones.
Forward.
It could be almost like not a code name. He's not a secret agent or anything, but the name could be the film, but it could just be Indiana Jones, The Adventures of so-and-so, and you can still have Indy in there, like you say, having him being at the university, telling this guy, it could be a young student of his, look, I'm too old to do this now. But this stuff needs to be sorted out, and we need to stop this from falling in the wrong hands. And him almost being in that Sean Connery-esque role. He could follow him about. He could be out in Egypt with him and sitting in the hotel and, giving him direction of where to go and what to do. And that's how it has to be done, I think, to make this a viable sequel.
Good point. Neil Blomkamp, director of District 9, Elysium, Chappie, is to direct a new RoboCop movie based on the unmade sequel to Paul Verhoeven's 1987 original film. Screenwriters Ed Numa and Michael Miner never got to make a sequel to the 1987's RoboCop, but that's all about to change. Now, we don't have very much information on this, but original screenwriters Edward Nima and Michael Miner are producing the film, and it's based on their original spec script for a sequel to Verhoeven's film that never got made. Justin Rhodes, a co-writer on Till Miller's upcoming Terminator sequel, is rewriting the script. RoboCop, starred Peter Weller as an injured cop who is turned into a cyborg and a law enforcement officer programmed to wipe out crime in the Detroit era. Cop's memories of his human life resurfaced and caused a malfunction with his new technology. MGM tried to reboot RoboCop in 2014 with director Jose Padilla and star Joel Kinnaman, but the film sadly disappointed at the domestic box office. But personally, I thought the movie was pretty good, as we both mentioned earlier. We both really liked it. Blomkamp, who directed Chappie in addition to District 9 Elysium, the filmmaker was developing an Alien film as well for several years, but the project never came to fruition as Ridley Scott returned to the franchise with Prometheus and Alien Covenant. Blomkamp says that the original RoboCop had a massive effect on him as a child. I loved it then, and it remains a classic in the end of the 20th century sci-fi catalogue with real meaning under the surface, Blomkamp said. Hopefully that is something that we can get closer to in the making of this sequel. That is my goal here, he said, and what I connected to as a kid has evolved over time. At first, the consumerism and materialism and the Reaganomics, the 80s theme of America on steroids, came through very strongly, as we remember it did. He continued, but as I've gotten older, the part that really resonated with me is identity, the search for identity. As long as the human component is there, a good story can work in any time period. It's not locked into a specific place in time. RoboCop Returns will be set in a crime-ridden Detroit again and centre around the cyborg as he's forced to come back to the city and save it from the brink of anarchy. Neumeier and Milner said the planned sequel never happened after 1987 because the 1988 writers' strike happened and Verhoeven's lack of interest in making another instalment took place. So, what do you think on that, mate?
I think that's great. I think if they can capture their synopsis, it sounds like it's going to be a real late 80s, early 90s story and vibe to it. You know, that we see a lot in the Judge Dredd film, that we see in things like Total Recall, that real gritty suburban, riots, and you see it in a lot of those films from that era, the Tank Girls and the Johnny Mnemonics. There's all those components for it, and I hope they can capture, if they do it. I mean, like I say, I'm not a big fan of the original, but if they capture it right.
Do you think he might sort of give RoboCop the same look as what the reboot did in terms of the way that he looked as a cybercop?
I think if they're going to do a direct sequel here, I think he'll go down the route of making it look like the original RoboCop. I've got a feeling that he's going to try and stay more true to the source material for that one.
Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah, it will be. I mean, like I say, I'm not a fan, but I understand the intricacies of making something like this and what you have to do to please the fan base and make it a success. If you're saying you're doing a direct sequel, then you need to make it a sequel. You can't go changing the aesthetics. You can't go changing the designs of things. And I think if he wants to make this what he's saying it's going to be, then he needs to keep that design of RoboCop the same.
As July gets underway, autumn television heads back into production, especially the CW superhero shows, which all intend to resume right around the same time. Earlier this month, there was an announcement that Arrow writers were getting ready for Arrow season 7. This returns with obviously Stephen Amell, who plays Oliver Queen, and Emily Beth Richards, who plays Felicity Smoke, and David Ramsey as John Diggle, and Echo Kellum as Curtis Holt. Fans would like to get the first look at the characters in action again at Comic-Con in San Diego later this month. Typically, most of the shows that present there bring a sizzle reel and begin production this week means that the season premiere is like to be fully shot and into editing by the time the sizzle reel needs to be completed. Photographs of them all together has been seen online, and obviously they look very happy that Arrow gets to get another season 7, because as we know, Lucifer was cancelled. And
wasn't taken up by Netflix, yeah,
which is fantastic news. And there is a lot of Arrow fans out there. I know we both kind of lost the plot a little bit with it.
Yeah. What I do generally with these things is I will now wait until it's run its course. It went on for far too long for me. If this was going to be contained 4 years worth of seasons, I'd have sat there watching them and enjoyed it year on year. Sure. What I will do now is I will wait until it finishes on season 13 or whatever it is, and then I will get the box set and I will watch them and I'll binge and I'll get through the whole lot, and I'll probably enjoy it a lot more that way. But the trouble is with my viewing habits, there's so many things I watch and so many things I do, and I'm doing the website, I'm doing the podcast, watching films, I'm watching TV series with my wife that we watch together, and then I've got ones I watch myself, and there's too much, and then I wait a year for something to come out, and I have to rewatch the last season because I've forgotten, and then that's more time taken. You know what I mean? And it's just this perpetual loop of never-ending TV that I have to catch up on to enjoy the new one of it. And there was far too much, especially with Flash. I mean, Flash is my favourite superhero there is. I really enjoyed the first season. Then season 2 started, and then Legends of Tomorrow came out, and then I had to keep up with Flash, and then there was other things on TV.
Supergirl as well, which was a crossover with the
which I really enjoyed. Supergirl, I watched season 1 of that, and then I'm thinking there is far too much media here for me to actually digest and watch and enjoy in the capacity that I should be enjoying it.
That's right, yeah. And I think as well the connection with the films, the Justice League as well, I think should have been there for myself personally. Not that Barry Allen should have been same Barry Allen in the film, but certainly we should have seen.
You could use the stories. I mean, the thing is with DC as well is not only that, you've got multi-dimensional timelines here, and there's no reason why they couldn't even reference that. You know, that when we see it in BVS, when Flash was coming through the porthole in his vision, saying to him, they could have used Barry Allen from the TV show, and they would have been like, that would have been a great little segue to, kind of like with Star Trek, when we see Spock Prime, and it's Leonard Nimoy. It's referencing the TV show, it's referencing that it exists, it's acknowledging to all the fans that we know this isn't the same thing, but please bear with us, right? And what it does there then is that they were so clever with Star Trek that was going, people going, oh, this didn't happen. And it's kind of them putting a finger up to them and going, no, it didn't happen because it's a different parallel dimension and timeline. So it did happen, but not here. And it references that and it makes note of that. And I love it. And they should have done that with the DC universe at least. I mean, personally, I think that Ezra Miller is nowhere near as good as, I can never remember the guy's name. But the guy who plays Barry in the series, I think he is perfect. There's no fault there with his character. He does it so well. He's confident when he wants to be confident. I liked him in Glee as well. Yes, I'm a Gleek. I did enjoy Glee when it was on TV. And he was brilliant in that. And, you know, for me, it was like DC kind of
opportunity missed there.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, we're seeing it with DC as well. We've just had news of this Joaquin Phoenix Joker movie, origin movie, and it's like, DC, what are you doing? What are you doing? Let's table everything and start again. Because I tell you what, people like me would be much more appreciative and understanding as a fan. Because I am a fan, even though I think there's some issues with some of those movies. I would be much more appreciative of them turning around and going, look, you've got these films. We didn't do what we wanted to do, but we're going to start again and we're going to do something different. And I'd be all in for that. And if they turn around and went, you know, the TV shows are running their course now, so we might start using those characters in movies, then cool. And I know that TV actors don't always move over to movies perfectly, but there's no reason why, like we said, you couldn't incorporate them into it. They do a Flashpoint movie. There's no reason why you couldn't have those characters in it, even for a 10-minute part. You know, they go into a different dimension and they're there with Stephen Amell as Oliver Queen. That'd be brilliant, you know. And DC, you know, Joaquin Phoenix as the Joker, yeah, it's cool, I get it. But I'm losing my my investment in this joy, because how long does this go on for? How many iterations of the Joker are we going to get before we get something that, you know, maybe as fans now we're ruined by the MCU because we expect everything to be long lasting and interconnected. Star Wars is the same, you know, everything's connected, so therefore continuity is key. We don't get that with DC, and it's a shame. It really is a shame. And I personally think they should have just said, right, we're not going to worry about movies. We're going to corner the TV market. We're going to do a Batman series. We're going to do Green Arrow. We're going to do a Flash TV show. And we're going to do Wonder Woman TV show. And we're going to do a Justice League TV show that all interconnects at some point here. And that for me would be perfect, because they somehow have nailed TV. It's not for me at the moment because I haven't got the time, and that's all it is, because I think those shows are great. But I would love DC to turn around and go, do you know what? Sod the movies. Let's just do TV. Marvel have got the corner on that. We're going to corner it, because Marvel, let's be honest, their TV shows aren't that great. And the ones that are streaming services. They're on demand. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is pants. And, you know, there's the two sides of that there with them. They're two totally different types of media, and one's owning one and one's owning the other.
Well, one particular role taken by Gal Gadot is Wonder Woman, and her next movie is kind of called Wonder Woman 1984, and is indeed being currently filmed in Virginia. Though most of the plot details for the film are still very much under wraps at the moment, it's been confirmed that the sequel will be directed by Jenkins, who is receiving a $9 million paycheck for this work with Dave Callum, and working on the screenplay alongside Jenkins and Jeff Johns. I don't know if Jeff Johns is going to be still working on this, because we've heard that he's left, I think, quite a pivotal role at DC.
Yeah,
the sequel to 2017's Wonder Woman is set to explore the journey of Diana Prince as she comes face to face with a new opponent who goes by the name of Cheetah. Gadot will once again star as Diana Prince, with Pine returning as Steve Trevor and Kristen Wiig making her debut appearance as Barbara Minerva, aka Cheetah. Now, we've seen the death of Mr. Steve Trevor, or so we thought. So if this is in the 1984, surely they're going to make him look a lot older than he was in 1940, whatever it was, 18. Was it 18, 1918?
What's to say he hasn't been frozen?
It was the First World War we saw him in, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, well, how weird would that be? Anyway, Gadot's unscheduled visit recently to a hospital to go and visit a patient in her full Wonder Woman get-up must have been rather awesome for a young girl that was in there.
And the young boys.
Absolutely. But it also just proved that actually the drive of excitement for Wonder Woman fans as audience eagerly wait for more insider information regarding the film, and I thought that was rather lovely that she did that. And Gadot has recently used her celebrity status to speak about current US child separation policy that brought to the attention to the issue. That she's been also been talking about not yet finished making the use of her Wonder Woman reputation, and it wouldn't be that much surprise to see her unexpected appearances as production continues to progress. More movie news: a live action of Gundam is finally happening. Legendary Pictures have teamed up with Sunrise Incorporated, company in charge of the popular anime franchise, to produce the movie. Now, Gundam. Now, if they don't
have the Korean singer Psy in this and call it Gundam style, I'm not in. I'm not in for this. No, I want to.
Unfortunately, I don't think he's going to be in it. The announcement was made at the Anime Expo, which just kicked off in Los Angeles. This is easily an announcement. Could have been saved for San Diego Comic-Con perhaps, but dropping the news for the fans at Anime Expo seems more in line with the roots of Gundam Plus. The news didn't get buried under the avalanche of other movie news and trailers and other splashy headlines. The plot details for Gundam...
It's a lot more niche, isn't it? Let's be honest. If you'd have released this at San Diego, it wouldn't have made waves. You released this at Anime Expo, people are listening. This is what people want. And, you know, Joe Public, me myself included in this, I saw this news, but I can guarantee if I was following San Diego and it got dropped there, I probably wouldn't even bat an eyelid at it.
Probably not.
No, it's not for me.
There's been no news yet, actually, of any director or writer attached to it. So it's still a little bit flaky, but it's Legendary Films that have taken it on, which means it's going to have a really good home. because another giant robot franchise in the form of Pacific Rim is there. Gundam was first introduced to the world in 1979 with an anime series, Mobile Suit Gundam. The original series is set in the distant Universal Century. The era sees humanity's growing population hit a point that has led people to emigrate to space colonies. Eventually, the people living in those colonies seek freedom from the control they're under. This leads to a war of independence against the people living on Earth. The show is credited with popularizing the giant robot genre over the years, and 14 different Gundam TV shows have now been produced. In addition to the various anime, there have been manga animated feature-length movies, there's been video games, of course, novels, and lots of toys. Without a live-action movie to hang its hat on, Gundam managed to become a multi-billion-pound franchise. By 2000, it had already crossed the 5 billion mark in retail sales. As such, this was destined to be turned into a movie by Hollywood eventually, and there have been attempts made in the past, but with a formal announcement made, it's actually on its way to becoming a reality now. Yet, until we hear of a director and a writer involved, it's still just speculation. But this is the kind of property that the franchise potentially has a huge sort of trilogy written all over it. Luckily, as of now, it looks like the studios are focusing on one movie and not getting too ahead of themselves.
Good.
But Steven Spielberg included Gundam Warrior in this year's Ready Player One. That helped fuel the desire for a live-action movie, I would have thought, and prayers are answered promptly. There is no release date yet for any film production information on Gundam at this time, as it sounds like the project is in the movie adaptation is in relatively early stages. I'm pretty sure, though, that Mr. Spielberg has a bit more to do with Gundam. He may well have bought the rights to that, but we'll look at that later. Now, I want to just mention Mr. Connor McClone, who has given us some lovely feedback on our Facebook page. Thank you very much, mate. And he also gave us some comments, and he talked about last week's show, the Back to Basics. He says, this week's show, Back to Basics, so glad to hear some love for the Man of Steel. That main theme is amazing, and it really is. I mean, it's a fantastic score. BVS as well, fantastic. I really enjoyed them both. They do have their faults, but what films don't? As the visual and audio 3-hour masterpiece, Blade Runner 2049 was his film of last year. The news of Denis Villeneuve's directing Dune is very exciting. He's hoping we get a big-scale epic event that it deserves. Maybe not 8 hours, as I said. I quite like 8 hours.
I'll tell you what, mate, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a trilogy there.
Well, I think the movie that we did get was very poor for what is essentially a phenomenal novel. Anyway, he goes on to say, but this has either to be a trilogy or a 2-part film like Infinity War. I really like David Lynch's version again, but it had its flaws. Anyway, great show. Thanks, guys. See you on the grid. We've had lots of fantastic comments from various people. Jeremy, again, thank you very much for your comments and saying what a great show it is.
It's nice to see people getting involved there now on the
Facebook
page.
Simon as well, also for getting very much involved on the Facebook page. He very much liked our posts on some 1980s TV shows that we put on there. Mm-hmm. How are we doing basically on our downloads and listening? I mean, they're all on the way up, aren't they?
They are always on the way up. It's humbling to see. We are constant for our downloads now. I mean, we even skipped an episode last week because of the football and
other issues. And so
just holding back the tears there. But yeah, I mean, we are constant. We've got downloads happening every day now. We've got people viewing our stuff on Facebook. There is interaction, and this is essentially what I always wanted it to be. The only reason why I want to do this and why I do, well, aside from talking to you once or twice a week, because it's blooming good fun, is to get people involved, is to get out and sit there and talk to people about this love that we all have for these things, and seeing these people do this and seeing these people interacting. I mean, you're taking time out of your day as much as, okay, maybe not as much as I am with editing and things like that, but I'm driving around for work and I see little notifications pop up that people are interacting on there. And legal disclaimer there, I'm not driving around and reading my phone. Okay, just so you know, I do stop. But it's good to see that, and it's nice to see that, and I come home with a bit of a smile on my face because I've got a little bit of catching up to do on people interacting on something that we've created, and it's lovely, mate. It's really nice. Yeah.
So thank you very much indeed for listening to this week's show. I've been Adam, and my co-host been Andy.
Yo. Thank you.
And,
cheers.
We'll catch you again next time on Retro Inc.